there's a new school way of doing open houses that not only grow your database, increase your impact, expand new opportunities for business, and the cost is almost zero. FSBOs can be equally as hard to find. So what you're doing is you're literally going to the door and saying, I can solve your problem, and it may be the traffic that I'm getting through my open house. But you got to pick the right open house. That's why that's step one.
Welcome one and welcome all to Real Kool Talk. We're your hosts, coaches Lucas Hine and Kristen Cronin, and we're about to share keen observations of life by real estate people for real estate people. Let's go.
How do we want to lead into our Friday banter? I mean, we're already there, but
we're already bantering. So this week, ladies and germs, we have the most amazing realtor extraordinaire, Fritz Pollard, who is most famous recently, famous for a lot of reasons, but recently he is most famous for being on stage at KW Mega Camp 2023, talking about his open house strategy. And we have him coming on in just a few minutes. Kristen, how many of your clients are still running open houses as a primary lead generation form?
I would say the majority of them. Yeah. And it's been a topic as of late, as well as the market's getting really busy. A lot of them are, I would say, even have upped their game on what they're currently doing for their open houses. So it's exciting to see how we can incorporate what we might walk away with today.
Here's what really excites me about this is over the last few weeks since the NAR decision to make rule changes that are supposedly still going to be in effect in July. And this is still purely speculative because they're not in effect yet. They just said they're going to make rule changes. We've discussed over the last few weeks about the difference between fiduciary and functionary. And the act of open houses is a lead generation form that creates relationships over transactional things like the transaction or the relationship, right? That's what excites me about today's topic because a lot of agents are getting back to basics.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know there's always things I think that we generally do, and then we think of, or we forget to think outside of the box. Like, what else could we do that is different that would make it stand apart? Because it's exciting. It'll be great today.
So Fritz is going to go over his one pager has the 7th level open house, his iteration of what the 7th level open house is. He actually sent me a more detailed breakdown of his 7th level open house in a GPS format. So for those listening, a GPS stands for a goal, priorities, and strategies under each priority, right? And I love how detailed Fritz was with his strategies. And this is something that I tell all of my agents that I'm coaching is that the perfect strategy has a what is it, how often, and how much of it. Or I said that a little out of order. What is it? How much or how many, and then how often. It must answer all of those questions collectively, and Fritz's strategies answer those delightfully, which is awesome.
Yeah, I always say if, what, by when, and how much. What are you trying to solve for?
Love that. So we're going to get right into the interview. He committed his time to us, even though he's very busy. He's also a coach with us at Maps Coaching and has a lot of agents that he's coaching and a lot of coaches that he is coaching too. So that says something about someone's experience when they've achieved that level of mastery where they're not just coaching agents, they're actually also coaching coaches too. So I'm pumped for this. I'm pumped for this conversation in general.
Yes, go Friday.
Go Friday. All right. Welcome one. Welcome all to a very special episode of Real Kool Talk, this live taping that you are all in a mastermind format with. We have a special guest today. His name is Fritz Pollard, realtor and coach extraordinaire. How are you today, Fritz?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be here.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on this call. We're really excited today This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because it helps agents that have like nothing in their database get from nothing to something really fast. And that topic is open houses. All right. So, Kristen, my partner here, and we're going to ask you a bunch of questions about you and about your open house strategy. I have some visual aids that I'll be sharing along the way. But first thing I want to ask you about, Fritz, is can you tell us just a little bit about you? Give us like the high level version of how you got into this business, how you went from, became a coach, and how you came up with this awesome strategy with open houses.
Okay, that's a big question, and I love it. So if I look at the business, and maybe this resonates with some of you, I was in college attempting to decide what did I want to do with my life. My dad was in corporate America. Back in the 80s, I didn't really see that corporate America treated people well. You certainly had a ceiling of advancement. My dad was transferred a lot, so we moved. We weren't like military type transfers, one every year or every other year. But, every handful of years, it seems like I just get into school, get settled, and then we were moving again. So I said, I want to be entrepreneurial. I want a job that I control my destiny. And I kept coming back to real estate, and it really checked a lot of the boxes. After about 12 years in the business, there was a degree in real estate finance. So that checked that box. I go, shoot, I'm going to hang in there and make that my calling. Not that the degree really made a huge difference in what I was going to do. And yet, I stuck in that lane. Became a selling real estate agent about 12 years. A management opportunity opened up at another company, not KW. And there were three things that we were told to do: coach, recruit, and train. I had never heard coaching before in my life, but I was intrigued by the opportunity to change and impact people's lives. And it's really become, I think, my life's mission. And so I was a manager for about 4 years, and all of a sudden the coaching seed had been planted. Handful of folks were leaving our aggressive company. It was an independent real estate company in Orange County, California, and they were going to a coaching company. And I said, let's do this. And so I was 9 years there, 12 years now at MAPS, 40,000 coaching calls later. I'm now 22 years ish. If I counted the coaching that I did at that particular sales company as a manager. And I'll tell you, it challenges me every day. It forces me to grow and get better. And I think that's the piece that keeps me engaged. So that's how we got here.
That
36 years in that little nutshell.
So how did that little nutshell bring you to authoring up the 7th level open house strategy?
Great question. So one of the things that I was monitoring in my own clients' businesses is we've got our database. And unfortunately, we can have touch campaigns, we can have DTD2 campaigns, and our database pre-COVID, during COVID, and even post-COVID, it gave us what it gave us. And it seemed like we were hitting that ceiling of expanding beyond it. We needed to grow the database. We need to impact more leads out of the database. And all of a sudden, whether we went out and bought pipeline tools that provided leads, we were now bumping up against, well, how much does that cost? And what's the quality of those leads? And what is the convertibility of those leads? And I kept coming back to, why are we going and throwing money at tools that were more expensive, poor quality leads, and an ROI that we could debate was not working in the agent's favor? So as inventory started just inching up last year, middle of the year, more summertime, I'm like, man, is there an opportunity here to get back to an old school activity? We tend to make a better and stronger impression face to face. For all of those agents, and let's just be super transparent, that may not be pound the phone, they may like the client to come to them. And we can actually create an opportunity where we massively expand the funnel for people to come to them. Man, it was win in conversion, win in simplicity of execution, win in conversations, win in low invested dollar for super high return. It's like the open house is it. So then what my thinking was, and I had to go way back in and dust off the old books on, oh, throw a sign in the ground with a balloon on it. Now I've done an open house. That's old school. There's a new school way of doing open houses that not only grow your database, increase your impact, expand new opportunities for business, and the cost is almost zero. Now it's sweat equity, but the cost is almost zero. So that's why I drew this up. And then to really kind of put that into a nutshell, presented it on a, I think it was a Jason Abrams mastermind. And I said, hey, by the way, they were talking about open houses, and I shared in the chat the GPS that I created. Next thing you know, my phone's ringing, and Jason said, hey, we'd like you to present this at Mega Camp with Gary. And there, it took off from there.
For those of everyone who's following along in their MREA playbooks, it's page 111. Okay. I'm looking at this and I'm laughing because I can just hear Gary's voice. Yeah, get it on one page. Oh, it's 10 pages. Yeah, get it on one page. Yeah, okay, get it on one page. Did he do that to you?
Oh yeah. In fact, you know, the rewrites on that one page. Listen, God bless Jason Abrams. This thing is a goldmine of ideas. I think my GPS that I shared with you was 3 pages because it's the open house itself, and the post. And all 3 of those are standalone different marketing activities. But man, to get that on this thing, there was a lot of work within hours of hitting the stage. And if everyone had to do that to make this book happen, God bless Jason Abrams.
And I will actually be, with your permission, Fritz, would it be all right if we shared that 3-pager out with our clients? Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we're gonna do that. Kristen, I'm gonna quit hogging Fritz for a minute. What question do you have for him before I keep going?
I love the fact, because Lucas and I were actually talking about this earlier today about thinking outside of the box, because a lot of both of our client bases are getting back to increased open houses. And it's really fun to kind of hear some of the some of the outside of the box things that they're doing already. Yeah. So we're excited to hear kind of your strategy today. And I love that you said, you know, about the investment in leads, because I think, you know, everybody's looking for a solution always, but they're not doing or seeing what is simply right in front of us. So I think that is especially powerful to think like it's right in front of us. It always has been. And why are we not engaging in it with it at a higher level? And especially for those that want to bring the people to us, they're doing a lot of prospecting, marketing-based prospecting, kind of sending out the smoke signal, but nothing necessarily comes back. And this is a way for that type of activity to bring people to you in a new way, but an old way.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
So Fritz, how important is, and I'm gonna put the strategy back up on display just for our recording here. How important is this, since we've been talking so much the past several weeks with the NAR rule changes, the difference between fiduciary and functionary? How important is a strategy as strong as this, given our new rules, given the refocus on the fiduciary, on the relationship over the transactional?
It's a great point. And I was actually scanning through this just to kind of get up to speed on it. And I didn't see that it necessarily made this cut. But if you share with them the GPS outline, I literally said, never leave the open house to go show any other related open houses without a buyer broker agreement. And you can do that in a busy open house. If there are 3 of you, remember, now we can actually share the activities of the marketing to make that funnel bigger. But I learned back in the early 90s, as soon as the buyer broker agreement was available, I jumped on it, and I was not getting them signed. And I remember vividly, stop. I am not presenting enough value for them to want to sign this. And the day that I got someone to sign it, they say, why wouldn't everyone sign this? That's the day I knew that I had nailed the presentation, because they're like, give that to me. Stop it. You're good. Where do we sign? And then start giving me the value. And there was a lot of steps back in the day when we really didn't even have, I'm a little ancient here, computers. I was like, people didn't have the computers and MLSs that they could access. I was pulling it up and sharing it. If you were a 10 in my pipeline, you heard from me once in the morning and once in the afternoon. And that's when they started saying, wow. And I said, please block out every evening. I have a standing appointment with you every evening. We're looking at your dream home until we find it this week. And so I'd meet people. I had a flashlight, during, non-daylight savings time. They go, where do I sign? So what you'll see in this GPS outline, and who knew back last summer we'd be dealing with this, we don't do anything without a rep agreement. And I think when clients start to see the way you operate, there's some language in here where I said, a lot of times the neighborhood will interview you. They will interview the listing agent in how you are marketing the open house that you're holding. Well, if that's a buyer first and they're going to be a seller second, you're being interviewed. So they're going to be willing to execute partnership agreements with you, to use maybe more of a flowery way of presenting that, when they see how you work. Are you a pro? Are you doing Academy Award work? They'll sign all day long. And the open house is a great place to get interviewed at if you do it right. So
well
just to make sure that I touch on your point there, I had put the buyer rep agreement in here last summer because I don't want you running off and working for free. You created the funnel. You have access to shadow inventory, and hopefully we'll get to that here in a minute. Of course you should get paid. And my shadow inventory isn't accessible in the places that they go get their listing information as a buyer. That's why I've got value. Maybe we'll get to that.
No, we will get to that. Let's go there right now, actually. First of all, what is shadow inventory? I know what it is, but I want to hear from you. What is shadow inventory?
So let me start though at step one, because young and dumb was Fritz. Young agent. I remember knocking on what's now a super high luxury neighborhood, and they opened the door. I'm at 22 years old, and literally the woman said, "How old are you?" She goes, "I bet I've bought and sold more property than you have." And I'm like, "You have," because I was at zero at that point. So I dominated in condos. And so what I tended to do is I tended to go back to a place, and I called it seller appeasement open houses. Those do not serve you. No way, no how, stop it. The best gift you can give yourself and your business is holding an open house that will create high traffic flow and a buyer for the listing you're attempting to sell. But boy, did I waste a lot of weekends on open houses and condos. Where do you go from there? A campsite? A mobile home? But boy, I watched a lot of golf all by myself. So the first thing I want to make sure you understand, and it's the top section, is picking the right open house. First week on the market, open houses are like day old bread. On day one, they're tasty. Day two, not so good. Next week in an open house, it's old and stale, especially with all the access that people can get to these open houses and virtual tours and fact sheets and pictures and all this stuff. So what my recommendation is, when you are executing a open house plan, it is a week-long plan. It starts on Monday, preview the hot sheets. It ends on Wednesday when you pick the open house that has the best curb appeal and high traffic flow areas, easy to sign in, meaning the signage, and a commitment, if it's not your listing, that you will hold it open that weekend regardless if it sells. We must have those things in place because you're going to put a lot of time and energy, but it's got to be the first week on the market and great curb appeal. Everything else starts to become secondary. You lock that down by Wednesday, it leaves you Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning to pull the trigger on everything you see here in the launch plan or the pre-open house scenario. Then it goes to 25 doors on either side knocked, 50 across the street, Everybody in the neighborhood on week 1 wants to know about the new house. Everyone does. Why? Because they're neighbors. 25 doors on either side, 50 across the street. It's a call and a knock. Follow all the do not call rules and regulations. That's Jason's got a tattoo somewhere. Yeah, he's got a tattoo somewhere of that TCPA verbiage. You got to follow that, but let the community know something's changed in their area. Week 2, nobody cares. They already know. So you got to pick the right open house. Monday to Wednesday, lock it down. Then you start the game plan, the door knocks, 50 across the street, the calls, same thing. And now we get to shadow inventory. We all struggle with expireds and for sale by owners. By the way, there hasn't been a lot of expireds. They're starting to creep up. The FSBOs have crept up a little bit before the expireds, but again, they're pretty confident too. So what we're doing is we're going back potentially 2 years on expireds and any current for sale by owners, and literally saying, we just listed the home at 1234 Elm Street. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath listed for $650,000. We're going to be holding a high level, high traffic open house. If your home is a match, any amenities are a match, may we bring them by? Are you still interested in selling? Obviously, if it's expired, or I can see your home hasn't sold, is for sale by owner, would it be okay if we brought them by? Now look at this. Most times an agent stops at, I want the listing, I want the listing. The problem is commission breath literally is a wall this thick between moving forward. Solve the expired's problem. Solve the FSBO's problem. They need a buyer. Go pick them up at your high-level open house and knock on that expired or FSBO's door. Now, you're going to do that a few hours or days before. Your client is going to sign a buyer-broker agreement. Remember, those things are hard to find. An expired is almost invisible. So that's the angle you have to provide that value proposition. FSBOs can be equally as hard to find. So what you're doing is you're literally going to the door and saying, I can solve your problem, and it may be the traffic that I'm getting through my open house. But you got to pick the right open house. That's why that's step 1. And by the way, week number 2, you're going to be on to your next one. So you're kind of like a vagabond in a way, but you're becoming very strategic, and you're solving the neighborhood's problems. Expireds that didn't sell, FSBOs that are still active, filling your pipeline of sellers in the community that you're holding the open house, because they go, holy smokes, I've never seen an open house event like the one I'm in now. That's why in some cases you do it right. You may need 3 agents, because it's that you get 25, 30, 50, 100 stops. And by the way, last year we were seeing that. It's like welcomed chaos. And then when we got 10 standing in that open house, we're taking them to the shadow inventory, call those expireds and those FSBOs. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes, this is an absolutely incredible strategy. And I think it's one we don't ever think of. Like, it's mind-blowing because it is so smart. I think one of my questions is we talk a lot about the scripts around all of these different scenarios with FSBOs, with expireds, with open house follow-up. What could be some of the maybe missed opportunities that might happen through conversation? Or what would be a way for people to optimize their conversations around some of this?
It's a great point, and I'm sure you could find a lot of things. I will tell you, and let me go to my book. It's right here. One of the things in this book, Ninja Selling, let me get that. Can everyone see that okay? I read this now 18 months ago. This blew my mind a little bit with regard to more relationship-based sales techniques, like not go for the jugular, let's close 3 times, press hard, there's 4 copies, that whole mentality. This is very much about servitude selling. So if I'm standing in that open house and somebody is walking up and I got this thing's dialed in, it's busy, maybe you have a sign-in sheet, You have some other kind of collection funnel, newsletter, market updates, whatever you may use. But I want you to start thinking through the lens of, they're not here because they're bored. Oh yeah, there's probably somebody that says, oh, we got some time to kill. The Jones house is on the market. But if they're from that community, they're going to sell at some point. So why don't you be their agent? And then when the buyer's walking up the walk, what's the problem you could solve for them? So anything that would say, hey, are you familiar with the neighborhood? Are you looking to, are you here as a buyer? Are you just an interested party? I've got access to inventory that's not on the market. How committed to the process are you? Are you working with an agent? I think look at all those qualifiers. I'm sure you could go online and find a lot of scripts, but do not lose track that they are there for a reason. Someone once told me, when people come to open houses, they've got real estate on their mind. Your job is to climb into their mind, identify what the real estate issue is, and then solve it for them. So, Kristen, it's a really good question. I wish I had 18 scripts I could give you, but I think you could find plenty of those, whether it be bold or go online, but solve their problem and do it with genuine grace and a servant heart is what's kind of bubbling up for me right now. By the way, in this book, it's got some classic perspectives. They said, meet the client, as I recall, out front and walk in with them like you're all experiencing the open house for the first time together. And I'm like, that is fascinating, because if you've picked the right open house and the lights are on and the music, if it's cold, the fireplace is on, walk in like you're experiencing it with them to kind of cement that servant perspective. And then let's identify what their issue is. Let's just become problem solvers for the human race as it serves real estate. And I think we'd be a lot further along. And maybe that starts to drop the defensive, oh my God, what do I say? But I will tell you this, they're not there because they're bored to death. Number one, they've got real estate on their mind and they've got access to everything but your shadow inventory. And you dangle that carrot enough, and I think they may be more connected to you than you think. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of, or at least I have a lot of conversations about, asking for the business or being able to convey those kind of moments in a powerful way and successfully. So in these scenarios, I think about like, what is the missed opportunity? Where could we have changed the way we spoke about something, the way that we operated?
I just thought of one. Thank you. I just thought of one. First question you will always ask, and you need to write down right now, which home in the neighborhood do you own? Client's walking up the way. Hey, how you doing? Fritz Pollard with Keller Williams. Thank you for coming by our open house. Real quick, by the way, which home in the neighborhood do you own? Well, we don't live in this neighborhood. Who are they?
They're a buyer.
Yeah.
They're a buyer. So I got my buyer hat on. I'm thinking about my shadow inventory. I know right where the general direction is. I'll get laser beam focused here as we build rapport. Clients walking up the walk. Which home in the neighborhood do you own? Oh, we're just 3 doors down. Hey, welcome. Then you probably know the Joneses. Yeah, they did. They redid the kitchen a couple years ago. We can't believe they're moving. I can't believe they're moving either. And then I put my seller hat on. Isn't it challenging when we're wandering around following someone in an open house and we don't know which hat we should be wearing? So we have no hat on. Therefore, we have no directed perspective. And then they leave and we go, that was exciting. What was that? Oh, I don't know, probably a paycheck that just walked out the door. So that's the question I will give you. Which home in the neighborhood do you own? It's really a low-key, safe question, and it tells you exactly who you've got. So thank you for letting my mind.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And that's
that.
exactly, I think that's really helpful in a lot of ways for a lot of people to help you kind of direct the conversation, get there quicker. Yeah, get there faster so you don't have to do so much work, kind of fact finding, and you just get right there.
Yeah,
So Fritz, we
love it.
oftentimes will spill over 12:30, but I want to be very respectful of your time if you have a hard
No, I'm
stop.
good.
Okay, great.
No, I'm good.
So Kristen's questions were important because it kind of gets into, if we're going to stick to your GPS here, it gets into strategy 3, right? Strategy 3 comes into during the open. So she was talking about conversations, which I love. I love your book. Another one is exactly what to say. Phil M. Jones, got to give him
Yeah.
props here,
Mhm.
right? That's another great one. Talk to us about strategy 3 is during the open, beyond the conversations we're having.
Okay, so time out real quick.
Yeah.
Phil Jones, you got to get the flashcards.
I love those
Get the
Yeah,
flashcards.
flashcards.
Get the
got to get the
Yes.
flashcards.
flashcards. And
Yes.
so, one of the things we talk about in the 5 time blocked schedule items for a successful agent: lead gen, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, script practice, and role play. And I guess today we call them seller and buyer conversation role play. Um, Test yourself. I mean, we probably, a lot of us didn't get through school unless we had our flashcards. And from a sales and a just a strategy standpoint, you can't get better than these cards. So get these cards and spend some muscle building time around your skills, and you'll start winning the game with less effort. So that's that. Okay, I'm sorry. Back to
Yeah,
your
that
screen
was
share.
a great plug. He used those during a live little powwow at family reunion this year, where he was like, "All right, we're gonna go into a role play. I guess I'm just gonna get my flashcards out." So definitely get them. I second that for sure. But
Yeah,
back to what we were talking about here is during the open, because so far we've gone over picking the right open house. You gave us a lot of details there.
yeah,
Pre-open marketing plan. And I know the most important steps is before and the after, right? But let's talk about the during.
yeah. So I'm a fan of, and I know there's strategies out there. Hold 3 open houses in a weekend. It's 90 minutes each. If you're going to invest, and this is a little bit of playing the game of chance. Did you pick the right open house? By the way, you get 100 stops. That might not have been the right open house. Sometimes it's too many. I remember being at open houses where I just go, "What the heck just hit me?" And I got nothing. I just need to make sure that someone didn't steal the dining room table. So I think you start to know what neighborhoods create what traffic. So if I'm going to plant down and hunt on Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, I'm going to get there early and stay late. I'm going to have 2 to 3 agents there because I want to be going out and showing homes during the open house. Let's share the love. Therefore, we can share the search for the property. We can share the putting out of the signs. There's a lot that can be shared with the 2 to 3 agents. Have 2 to 3 switch property, which wasn't in Jason's outline. I find that people drive to an open house in neighborhoods they can't afford. They're just hopeful. So what we need is equally amenity based properties that are close, maybe one less bedroom, maybe one less bathroom or what have you, but still have the same commute, security, safety, school districts, whatever. So that's the 2 to 3 switch property. We've talked about the FSBOs and expireds. Getting those lined up. You can see here, get the buyer rep agreement signed at the open before showing. I'm thinking that, it's chaotic. You got the 3 agents, they're all cycling through, the first one's yours, the fourth one's yours. And then I get the hot one that's ready to go that wants to go see the shadow inventory. And I'm at the dining room table. Now, just imagine if people were walking into that open house and they see someone sitting at the dining room table with paperwork. What do you think that does to the open house? Especially if the legit buyer is the next one in. I mean, if you want to say, hey, how are we serving the seller here? And who's writing the contract? And then, that agent's out the door, the next one's up. So again, I'm looking at this super purposeful, chaotic environment that just has so much energy around it for both buyers and sellers. Having all buyers sign in, I think agents some do a great job at this, some don't. I'm writing a thank you card to everybody as soon as they're done. And then one of the agents that we were presenting this with, and this was absolutely brilliant, they said, we're always looking for great agents to join our team. and we don't do a good job of tracking them. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you're looking to grow your team, how about watching someone live do the work of an agent? So do they show up with a jacket on, dressed to the nines? Are they professional? Are they courteous? Do they interact well? Get the agent to sign in too. Send them a thank you card. Let's all start working as a team. I don't care what flag we fly in front of the office. So now all of a sudden we're going, oh my God, we could recruit with this open house. And then do you think that that agent coming in looks at you dressed to the nines, professional? You got, oh my God, this thing's like a complete strategy operation. I may be calling that person up. Hey, I just want to let you know you really stood out. Any feedback from your buyer? And by the way, we're always looking for great talent. You stood out. You know, do you want to go to the next level? That's where we're going. We'd love you to come along with us. So all of this started to grow into more aspects of opportunity from that plain old open house that we used to do decades ago. And I think we've gotten away from.
Yep.
Does that cover the during the open house outline?
It covered it very well, and you gave us the little bonus with the profit share shout out. I love it. You know, all this is really bringing me back to, Fritz, you probably remember the bold coach. I'm going to name drop here. David Long. He was my first bold coach. He said this thing maybe 20 times during the course of our bold class. There's 3 ways to get business. You can wait for it, you can buy it, or you can go get it. And this strategy is, how can I go get it, and how can I go get it at the highest level possible? That's what is just, it's making my hair stand up on my arm. Like, it's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, David's a great guy. He, in fact, he was one of the people that would literally let me come in and watch him coach at another company, and I'd consider him a good colleague, friend, even today.
Yeah, great guy. Kristen, you were going to contribute something. I cut you off there.
I have a couple thoughts. The switch properties, like, what if you prepped those ahead of time and then you had them as part of your follow-ups, like when you were done?
Oh yeah, I mean, you should let them know, hey, listen, I'm holding a high level open house. I believe that your property could be a good match. I'm not saying, it's a bedroom less or what have you. But listen, we're movers and shakers in this market. So any chance between 1 and 5, noon and 4, I could just have an open pass. Maybe I'll call you real quick if we're on our way. But, last time we did an open house in this area, we got 35. We've gotten as many as 60. Now we'd be bringing them all by. We will pre-qualify. We will be connected and representing them. Can we just pop in? Now, listen, has their agent done that? Is their agent following up with them, solving their problem? Or is their agent saying, when do you want to go back on the market?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think when you look at that servant real estate heart from an agent, we can score big with just solving people's issues. So I love that as a follow-up because it's unique in what they believe an agent does normally.
Mm-hmm.
Be different.
I think it's amazing too. Like, these are moments that are hidden inside what we normally do. So how many other things do we do as agents on the daily that there is like this next level moment? And how do you kind of look at everything you're doing kind of with a different lens now, saying like, well, what else could be hidden in here? What else could happen?
Let me give you one other thing. And by the way, I put 7th level open house to honor Gary's reference, but then I said 10x. So that references the piece of what could we do to be disruptive that we currently do disjointed, that we could bolt on and make it one massively powerful and productive perspective here. So, let's say you picked the wrong open house. Well, do you think your database would be interested to know that you happen to be working and sitting at a really exciting open house? Hey, if you're in the neighborhood, pop by. I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, why do we not call our database? Well, let's be clear, we're value deficient to the database. But if you called them and said, listen, I'm sitting on this unbelievable open house. It's got a great view of the park. It's been active, it's slow, fast, whatever. Come on by. Now we are literally serving the database. So we're serving shadow inventory. We're meeting the community. We're helping the seller. We're connecting with our database. And I think we can continue to bolt on all these separate agreement or separate value propositions into one. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for this today. Does anyone have any questions for Fritz?
And then what if people want to come off mute, put their questions in the chat box, Fritz, then, make sure you talk to us about the post open house strategy.
Well, let me
Again,
touch on the
very important.
post, and then we can wrap
Yeah.
questions all together. So there's pre, there's during, and then there's post. And there's 2 steps to the post. One of the best teachers around this was a gentleman by the name of Aaron Armstrong, who talked about really catapulting these activities, kind of along the lines of what Kristen was sharing. We have a just listed, we missed the just pended and the just closed. We have to stop doing this. So we door knock 25 on either side, 50 across the street by phone and by door for the just listed. Please go back, finish the job. When you get an offer or multiple offers, door knock 25 on either side, 50 across the street, and call again and say, congratulations, I just reached out to you about 10 days ago about this new listing. It is now under contract, and we've still got buyers looking to be in this unbelievable neighborhood. Who do you know, neighbor, that is thinking of selling? I'm playing matchmaker today. Because again, you do it the way we're suggesting here, you're going to continue to get agents and clients and friends of clients and neighbors. They're going to continue to call. So now go back and prime the pump again. Then you do it on a just closed. We just wrapped that up. I can now tell you we set a new record in the community. 50,000 over, that could be a little bit old information, but I got news for you. We're still getting pretty respectable prices. So now we just closed it. I've still got 2 offers that I need to get placed. We've probably got 12 interested buyers in this neighborhood. Again, who else do you know that's thinking of selling that is interested in getting top dollar right now? So what we had gotten feedback on is when you do the 3-legged approach to the community, because that's where the listings are going to come from. We had neighbors starting to say, oh my God, I'm seeing you every week. You're getting everything in this community. So if you're looking to be a buyer's agent and switch over to be a listing agent, use this strategy. You don't need to invest thousands of dollars dominating a farm. Forget that. Go find a community you want to be in, find an open house in there, hold it at this level, maybe get another one and hit that 3 times, just listed, just pended, just closed, and stand back and watch the community start to connect you as the neighborhood specialist. And they may say it after the first listing because it feels so connected. And we had people say, and you go, well, I call and knock. Yes, because some people answer phones, some people answer doors. And we were looking to get about 80% touch rate, and you do it with the 2 steps. Then times 3, you may be touching 90% of that community. What kind of strategy gives you that touch campaign? And you will own that neighborhood for pennies of invested dollars. And then you get the next one. Actually, Ninja Selling was suggesting that you'll have within 1 year 2 to 3 additional appointments with every well-presented open house. And I'm not even talking about what we're dealing with here. They're just talking about doing solid follow-up. So you could own a community and take it away from a dominant farmer overnight. But you got to do the 3 steps. And where we usually bail is we'll do the just listed. We'll do a little bit of the just pended, but we won't wrap it up and put a bow on it with the just sold. So I wanted to get that out there before we get to questions.
I think that's amazing. We missed that step, I think 100% of the time. I don't know anybody who's told me they're doing that.
Fritz, I gotta
If
say,
you do, you'll win.
We really appreciate you being here, all the information you're providing us. On a personal level, Fritz, I always appreciate your energy. I think you're one of the only coaches in Maps' ecosystem whose energy matches mine, right? I mean, there's
Good.
you, there's Molly D'Amatos, and
Oh
then
yeah.
and then there's me, and I'm like, I don't know anybody else that can get as
Well,
loud.
get this. I get to coach Molly. So could you imagine that? It's like high octane steroids on every call.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can't imagine that. I'd be excited to be a fly on the wall. Okay, who's got questions? Come off of mute, pop them in the chat. I want to hear them. Anybody that's running open houses right now or wants to or intends to run open houses, let's hear it. Even share your ahas. We want to hear everything. Now, I have some serious ahas. So Fritz, you already shared when you went in a 1, 2, 3. My biggest aha was how this brings us back to the relationship, how this reinforces us as the fiduciary to our clients. We do this with every single one of our sellers. Do we even have to talk about the value that we bring anymore, or can we let our client's testimonial do the heavy lifting for that value?
Good point.
Mhm.
That's my
Yeah.
big aha.
Mine is really focused around how we are operating at such a small percentage, I think, in most of the tasks that we do. And then how there's so many hidden layers of other things that we could just intentionally focus on that is not even a huge shift that makes such a big difference.
Yeah, and I think if you're doing business planning around this, and if you pulled that up again, if you can pull the GPS at the top, I think I figured that you could do, go to the top again. What did I write up there? Okay, take 20 listings and do 40 buyer sales. Now, listen, I'm just spitballing here, but if you think about doing one a week on a 40-week to 48-week work year, and every Monday was hunting, and every Saturday was or Sunday, whenever you do your open houses. But could you find enough listings for somewhere in the ballpark of 2 listings a month? If you hit the 3 steps, could you do 20 listings in 40 buyers? Because one then feeds the next. I'll tell you the challenge. If you do every part of this, you will have so many leads, you may have to push an open house or 2. Be careful of that, because remember, we always need to keep the pipeline primed. But heck, what if it was only 10 listings and 20 buyers? Would that be a suitable year for you? This play will get you there.
Beware of too many leads.
Yeah. What a problem.
Who's got problems in their business that can't be solved with more leads? They can be solved with either more leads, more listings, or more leverage. All problems are that simple. Okay.
Yeah, just on the leverage front, I've sat with some really high engaging agents, and we started to map this thing out very quickly. They would need leverage if they needed 2 agents to do it with them. And then all of a sudden they're going on more listing appointments and more buyer appointments. What if you created an open house team that you were the kingpin of? Now you've got leverage around the execution and work out a split plan. As now you've got I could see the conference room, coffee and donuts every Monday morning at 8 a.m. looking at the hot sheet. Everyone blitzes out to the community to do the previewing. We lock it down by Wednesday, and I've got 3 of these running, and my open house strike teams are now engaged. Hello, it's called leverage around an open house, but it's a strategy. We don't miss a step. We use a checklist to make sure everything's done. And I think you sit back and watch your name show up on the listing board and the sales board consistently. Just running a play. So that brings in the leverage piece.
It's just running a play. Like Will told us 3 weeks ago now, Will Van Wickle, we had him on the call 3 weeks ago. First thing he says is, hey, I appreciate that you called it a play. That's literally it. We were talking about golden letters. It's a play. We ran it. Your GPS here, Fritz, it's a playbook. Let's just run it. Let's just run it. If we are feeling like near and dear to our hearts is open houses, that's a play. Let's run the best playbook. Why would we be running like a high school football team's playbook when we could be running a Super Bowl team's playbook?
And one final thought on that playbook thing. Do not look at this GPS and say, I have to master it. Pull the pieces out that you could execute immediately, and then develop your own muscle and make your own tweaks so that one day very soon you're on this call presenting what you did with this as the foundation. But our pursuit of perfection creates paralysis. And by the way, I'm going to tell you neurologically, it's a perfect design to do nothing and be okay. I want you to hear what I just said there. Your perfection and the pursuit of it is causing paralysis, so it makes everything okay to do nothing. And your brain is telling you that makes sense. I want you to scramble that thinking and say, pick off of my outline 2 or 3 things on the pre, 2 or 3 things to do during, and 2 or 3 on the just pended to the just sold, until it becomes habit for you. And then write your own GPS that makes mine look silly. But if you're going to try to execute every step of this, it will not work. You will paralyze yourself. There's a lot there. You don't go to the advanced spin class on your first day. You'd be dead. So stop it.
Can I change my aha?
Okay.
Thank you for that. Coaching corner with Fritz. The pursuit of perfection leads to paralysis. Thank you so much. I mean, from the bottom of me, Fritz, thank you so much for your contribution, not just on today, but thank you for your contribution in general to the entire MAPS community, to the entire Keller Williams community. You are definitely one of the greats. So I want to say this.
Thank you
on
for that.
record.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I
A
appreciate
lot
it
of
very
people
much.
got me here. So thanks to them. It'd be too long a list to name.
Thank you so much for giving us your time today. We really, really appreciate it.
I love it. Now go execute on this thing, and I want to see your name and lights.
All right. Thanks
See you
again,
all
Fritz.
later.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
And that is a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Real Kool Talk. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And please leave us a rating and review. We want to hear your feedback, as we thrive on feedback. It is always the breakfast of champions. And now for the legal stuff. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the hosts and the guests represent those of the hosts and the guests, and not Keller Williams Realty International, its affiliates, MAPS Coaching, or its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completedness, timeliness, or results from using the information. That's all, folks. See ya. And my
Hi, this is
partner,
Brandon Folks with Keller Williams Realty.
Brandon, folks, we're going to mute you. And we're going to cut that out since this is a live taping.
The best. Oh, we're already recording. You know who's really excited about our podcast is my mom.
I recorded on my computer for our HD recording.
I just used an envelope out of my trash can.
You don't need the lipstick to be making smushes all over the water bottle.
No, it doesn't need to be so intense for a Friday at 11:46.